ain't never asked for no help, I just did it by myself. Can't nobody tell me no, no, no. And they ain't gotta love you, long as you just love you, you gon' be alright on your own. Straight up the dome.
Off the Dome, that's who we are, that's what we do, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Off the Dome Sports Podcast. I'm going to wait for Soundboy to make it in here before we do our intro that you know we love to do if you've seen us before. If you haven't, thank you for watching us on all the Radio House Studios accounts, whether you're on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch. We really appreciate you watching in. If not, you're probably listening on newrockradio.us. Don't only listen for us, though. Listen in 24/7. Best, your favorite rock songs coming through newrockradio.us. Local bands, national bands, classic rock, new rock, doesn't matter. It's on there. I promise you, you're going to love it. And you're also going to love newcountryradio.us, streaming the best country music at all times. I love country music myself. Go ahead and give it a listen. How we doing over there, Mustang? We getting it together?
Just about there, just about there.
All right, that's what I like to hear. Before we get Mustang on here, I would like to say a quick little thank you to Petra Restaurant and Lounge. Petra is the best dining experience in the area. If you're looking for their logo, you can see it right behind. Who is this guy?
Just a
Father
backwards-
Forsyth.
New
backwards
face.
hat kind of guy, you know.
New face to the podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard us mention him many a time before. And here he is.
He's finally off of work.
Finally off of work.
It only took like way too long.
It only took a few months. But here we are, ladies and gentlemen. Father Forsyth sitting in. We also want to thank Fatty's Restaurant, Fatty's in Garyville. Great food, great atmosphere, and the occasional live music that you'll see from Mr. Mustang over there. You can find Fatty's on Facebook or go ahead and give him a visit on Museum Street in Garyville. You'll know it's there when it's the little white place with the gravel lot. We also want to thank Big Chiefs AC and Heating in Gramercy. So if you have any AC or heating problems, especially in this cold Louisiana weather right now, go ahead and give them a call for any AC and heating, 985-359-0419. Thank you to Big Chiefs for being a friend of not only the Off the Dome Sports Podcast, but New Rock Radio and the Radio House. Ladies and gentlemen, Off the Dome Sports Podcast, your favorite sports podcast for 2 and sometimes 3 sports lovers sit here and give their hot takes.
Off the dome.
See, we didn't have to tell him. He already knew what was going on.
I'm Himothy.
He is Himothy. And don't forget to find us on Facebook and YouTube, Off the Dome Sports Podcast, as well as on Twitter, Off the _Dome Pod. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get into the spots. First things first. You know what we're going to talk about. It's the biggest thing going on right now. Ladies and gentlemen, the NFL playoffs. We only have one game left. We're nearing the end, unfortunately.
Well, 2 if you count the Pro Bowl. That's not really a Pro Bowl
Pro Bowl
anymore.
doesn't count. Pro Bowl does not count.
Flag football.
Flag football, dodgeball, ultimate frisbee, disc golf. I don't even know what they do anymore.
2-hand touch next year.
Let's go. Sign me up.
Let's do it. But yeah, so conference championship weekend we saw this past weekend, and I'll tell you what, that Chiefs-Bengals game was a great one, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nail biter.
Down to the bitter end.
It was very bitter for some of us.
Many of us who needed a Jamar Chase touchdown.
I am included.
That is so tough.
We're not even going to talk about bets on this episode because it wasn't great for us.
No.
But so before we get into that Bengals-Chiefs games, let's talk about the game that happened first. We're looking at the 49ers versus Eagles. If y'all didn't catch the score of that one, it was 31-7. If you didn't watch the game, you'd be like, oh, man, the Eagles really dominated. And if you did watch the game, you'd be like, oh, man, the Eagles really dominated. I mean, like, the Eagles had it. A lot of things went wrong for the 49ers.
A lot.
Yeah.
Give us a little dive into this game, Mr. Forsyth.
I mean, from the beginning, honestly, even if Brock Purdy was completely healthy, I don't believe the Niners stood a chance.
Get a little closer to that mic.
Okay.
There it is.
We cooking?
I'm just gonna. Yeah.
There we go. All right. But yeah, even with Brock Purdy fully healthy, ready to go, the Eagles, I believe, had this thing in the bag the whole time. They dominated time of possession the entire game, about 15 minutes more than the Niners. So
Can't
when
score
you-
points if you don't have the ball.
Exactly. And I mean, when you're able to have that kind of impact, it's going to go your way.
Yeah, absolutely. What did you see, Mr. Mustang?
Well, I'm gonna have to disagree a little bit with Father
Oh.
Forsyth.
Oh no.
I do think Brock Purdy, they had a lot of doubt around him even when he started his first regular season game, proved them wrong, and then going into the playoffs, they had even more doubts about him, and he shut them up handedly. first 2 rounds.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, look, I like Brock Purdy a lot.
I love
Look, I think he's got some talent. It's going to take some more development.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously. It's just the Eagles, I believe, are they the top ranked pass defense?
Yeah, they were number 1 in every defensive category except for rush, which the 49ers had.
So, love the enthusiasm for Mr. Brock Purdy, but that's a tall task for anyone to take on.
Well, yeah,
so.
yeah. I do think it would have been closer, but I think Philly came out swinging, and the 49ers kind of would have been fighting an uphill battle the whole game. I don't think they necessarily would have won. I just think it would have been closer had Brock Purdy not gotten hurt on the second drive of the game.
Well, of course, because Josh Johnson isn't gonna.
Yeah,
He's not gonna. There's a reason he's been to every team in the league. So,
I mean, I agree. Like, I don't from first whistle, I didn't think the 49ers were going to win this game, and then of course they didn't. If Brock Purdy stays healthy, though, I mean, it probably stays within 10. I would think 10 to 14, because when Brock Purdy was in there, they did go down and score a touchdown.
Yeah.
It's not like Brock Purdy went out and they were down 35 points already.
And the Niners defense was holding them quite a bit, even when they had really good field position.
Yeah, that's the thing is, the Eagles started off with good field position 3 drives in a row. So it's not like the offense was just methodically driving down the field. If you look at their yardage, I mean, Jalen Hurts only had 121 through the air. They had less than 150 as a team on the ground with Kenneth Gainwell, Miles Sanders, Jalen Hurts, and Boston Scott all getting carries. So it's not like they had, like, the Eagles offense didn't have this amazing day, but they put 31 points on the board. And if you put 31 points on the board, you're looking to win the game, especially with that defense. Like Father Forsythe was talking about, Josh Johnson over here. I mean, listen, he's been in the league for I don't even know how long. He's only started 2 games, and you can tell why. I mean, he comes in and just didn't have it. Which, to be fair, he should have never been in that situation.
oh yeah,
It was kind of like that, people complain about Tyler Huntley, which shout out to Tyler Huntley for making the Pro Bowl. Yeah, that's a whole nother subject.
Yeah,
I don't even want to.
we got our Pro Bowl in for the pod. Let's
calm it down. I agree, Mitch Trubisky. But yeah, I mean, Josh Johnson should have never had a chance to play anyway. I mean, that was their 4th quarterback of the year. Even Christian McCaffrey ended up throwing a pass. Like, the 49ers were just put in a bad QB situation. But if Brock Purdy stays healthy and everything goes their way, I still think the Eagles pull that one out. They're just the most well-rounded team in the league, in my opinion. And I don't think that's necessarily a hot take. I think top to bottom, the Eagles have everything you could look for in a Super Bowl caliber team, and that's why they made it out of the NFC. Looking on to the AFC, Chiefs-Bengals, we already mentioned it for a second, and it definitely didn't go the way I thought it would go or the way I hoped it would go, unfortunately.
No.
23-20 for the Chiefs. Before we get into the actual gameplay, refereeing is a problem, right? Am I the only one who thinks this?
I think it's been a problem all playoffs.
Well, it's been a problem since the 2019 NFC Championship, that's for sure.
Are we specifically referencing the Joseph Asai play, or is
No,
this the
I'm
entire
just
game?
saying the entire
Okay.
game as a
Then
whole, because the
yes.
Joseph Osai play, like, listen, I get it. It sucks. But by rule, you look at it, he pushed him while he was out of bounds. Like,
Absolutely.
it was by rule a penalty. It sucks because of the time it came at, and really for Joseph Osai, because he had when Trey Hendrickson and Sam Hubbard were both hurt and he had to play during the season, he looked good for like a 3rd-round rookie. So you can't put the guy down as far as his whole entire season goes. And I know, they had those videos on Twitter of Jermaine Pratt like laying into him on their way to the locker room and everything. But I just in general in the game, there was a lot of refereeing choices where you're like, dude, seriously.
You know who that play really sucked for? The guy that Joseph Osai landed on the sidelines.
Ooh, that little ball boy or water boy or whatever he was. I think he's dead.
Poor little Timmy.
Yeah, poor little Timmy indeed. R.A.P. Papa Duck Sauce.
Soundman's in the chat already.
What's up, Soundman?
He said Lionel Frankenstein in the house.
Lionel
course.
Frankenstein. So yeah, to go on that just for a minute, off this Bengals Chiefs game, we had talked about fantasy a lot while fantasy was going on, and sometimes we had Dustin in the chat, or we would mention how Soundman had the best team in the league and didn't even draft it. He did. So Soundman, we love you, but was it really your team?
I'm sorry for drafting Clyde. So sorry.
First 4 weeks of the season, you weren't saying sorry. That man was
Afterwards.
RB1. But yeah,
Tough scenes.
tough scenes indeed. But yeah,
He's still mad at you for not drafting the kicker though, that I stole,
Wait, which kicker?
Young Wei Koo.
Young
Oh, I mean, I'd be mad at me too.
yeah. I mean, you got to do what you got to do.
And then he came back and said, referees are only a problem for the losing team.
I mean, okay. When you put it like that, I guess. But no, like they got 3 third downs in a row. One of them was on some weird like, oh, I blew the whistle before the play started, but nobody heard it, and they let the play continue. They don't get the third down, and then after they're like, oh no, I blew a whistle, and you're like, oh okay, and we're like, what? Like the entire stadium was like, what just happened? And then you have random times where time was being added to the clock, and they didn't explain why. They just kind of did it. It was a very weird game from the officiating side.
Yeah, and I mean, not to stick too long on the Osai thing, but I believe it was either the drive before by the Bengals or a few drives prior where practically the same play happened where Burrow got pushed out of bounds on the left side of the field.
Yeah.
Nothing was called.
No.
It was nearly identical to what happened to Osai a few drives later.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, if you're going to call it, you've
Mhm.
got to call it consistently the whole time.
Right. And I think I saw a TikTok that had like a bunch of like it was like 5 different plays that mirrored Chiefs getting penalties and Bengals didn't get the same call. Like there was a roughing the passer where I don't remember if it was Chris Jones or Frank Clark, but Joe Burrow throws the ball. He had time to throw the ball, plant both feet, and just watch the play happen. Like he had that amount of time, and then Frank Clark or Chris Jones, whoever it was, pushes him in the chest and he falls back, and the ref watches it happen and just dogs down the field. So, I mean, the guy took like 4 steps and then hit him after the play. Like, why is that not roughing the passer? I know there's a lot of roughing the passer penalties nowadays where you're like, oh, dude, seriously? But that one is by the book. Like, dude, you got to call that.
Yeah.
And we just weren't seeing it. It just wasn't happening.
Yeah, I just think it goes back to preseason. I don't know if y'all have seen Twitter going up in flames right now about Arian Foster talking about how they get the script in preseason, and
Yeah.
a lot of people,
My favorite thing about it
Agreeing
is,
with him.
Yeah, my favorite thing about it is that
There's
people
a-
don't realize it's a joke.
yeah, there's a lot of people playing along.
Like, because you got to understand, Arian Foster does a podcast with PFT commenter of Pardon My Take that's called Macrodosing. And that's where this information is coming from. It's not coming from him like in a formal press conference. Like, it's a joke, and it's so obviously a joke because after it, they were talking about like, how did he feel when he got the script and it said in 2015 that he'd have the worst year of his career and then retire? And he was like, oh, yeah, man, that was a tough read. Like it was such an obvious thing, and people are blowing it up like, oh, the NFL scripted. Which it might be.
Yeah. They could be, like reverse psychology.
Oh, yeah, maybe he's trying to make it sound like a joke so hard that it's actually true.
Some
Maybe
conspiracy theorists on the pod today.
Tom Brady was really happy when he read his script until this season. So officially, Tom Brady did retire.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, wow.
that's something you got to talk about.
There's only one guy left, really,
The nightmares
From-
are over.
Yeah,
from our childhood.
our childhood quarterback, the only one who's left is Aaron Rodgers, man. He's the only one still. I mean, Matt Ryan's still going, but he's not really Matt Ryan anymore.
He was really upset when he read that Super Bowl script.
He was very upset. Him and Kyle Shanahan probably cried together. But okay, back to this Bengals Kansas City game. What did we see in this game that you think really put Kansas City over the edge, other than the officiating?
I think, Mahomes and Kelsey, not being 100% going into that game, I think it showed a lot of heart, a lot of passion for the game, for them to go out and play that whole game as well as they did. But, I mean, they do have 2 weeks to rest. Do you think that they're going to be 100% for this game? I mean, I know Kelsey probably will be. Mahomes is the one I'm really in question about because a high ankle sprain can take some time to heal.
Yeah,
Was it officially a high ankle sprain?
that's what they called it.
Okay, so I think he'll be fine because he's like not human.
Fair.
So time will tell, but I think because he went out there and he still played like Mahomes, right? Like there wasn't too much discourse.
I mean,
like,
yeah, they had some plays and like some camera shots of him like, trying to throw off a different foot on the run. You could see him like his drop step was a little awkward on some plays.
Yeah, and we also saw one thing I noticed is like those little quick screens they love to run, like either the shovel passes or the like take one step and hurry up and throw it out to a receiver. Like, he wasn't planning right on the foot, so the ball would either go too low, too high, left, right, whatever the chances are. But if you look at the box score, dude went 29 for 43, 326, and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying.
He had a 105 rating. Like, he still had him a day. And he did have that one fumble that was very uncharacteristic of him. But I think it's because he didn't grab laces. He tries to flick it. It doesn't work. I don't think the ankle really affected that play. But to your question of like whether Mahomes is going to be healthy or not, I think if he can do this on a high ankle sprain that's not healed yet, give him 2 more weeks. I think he'll be fine.
Soundman's back in the comments.
What we got?
Said, I'd like to get a hold of that script. We could cash some tickets.
Fact.
And then he said, turn Lionel up or make him stay close to the mic.
Lionel, you got to swallow the mic, bud.
Oh, whoa.
Just saying.
There you go.
Pause. All right, cool,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, you're good.
You could pull it towards you a little more if you want.
Yeah, it moves.
Sweet.
But so from the Kansas City side, I mean, that offense, even without Tyreek Hill, is still electric. You got guys stepping up all over the field. To your point, Travis Kelce, I mean, he was supposed to be hurt, and he still went for 7 for 80 and a touchdown. MVS had him a day on Eli Apple. Gosh, I hate Eli Apple. But MVS, 6 for 116 and a touchdown. He had 2 really, really long catches that helped with that. Isaiah Pacheco, a guy that I know Father Forsyth was really a fan of before the season started.
Checo.
He didn't do much on the ground, but through the air, 5 for 59. I mean, you just had guys stepping up all over the place for Kansas City. So offensively, Kansas City had him a day, and then defensively, they really stepped up.
Yes, they did. The Bengals O-line, I know they added a couple pieces this prior offseason. They're going to need to add some more.
Yeah.
I don't think Jonah Williams is all that special.
No.
He was touted as, this top-tier prospect when he came out. Not the guy. But you look at the interior pressure, specifically from Chris Jones. He had 2 sacks in the game that added to the 5 total sacks from the Chiefs D-line. So they're going to need, for the Bengals next season, if they want to contend, Joe Burrow can't be running for his life every play.
Yeah.
They're going to need to fix that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, people can say, oh, they had, 3 starters out on the line, so that hurt them. But, like, even when the starters were in, they still weren't that good.
I think they were still much better than last season.
I mean, to be fair, I think the O-line was better than last season, but still not good enough.
Yeah.
I don't know what it comes down to if you just got to kind of reset. I mean, like he said, like, you got 3 new pieces on the O-line, and you assumed that would make you better with Alex Kappa, Ted Karras, La'el Collins. Brought in all 3 of those guys. You're expecting, the center, right guard, and left tackle. You're expecting to have those positions locked down and kind of rotate guys to the other one, see what's happening. Jonah Williams let him down. La'el Collins let him down. Alex Kappa and Ted Karras, I think, both got hurt. Like, just nothing was working for him on the O-line. And I think that's a really big reason why they lost in this game. Joe Burrow just had no time to breathe. We also saw him got stopped on the ground. Cincinnati did. Joe Mixon, 8 carries for 19 yards, which Joe Mixon.
Yeah, not good numbers.
Well, not only that, not good person, apparently. Can you fill in, Mustang, on what just happened?
Yeah, so
We
Joe
just read this
Mixon-
tweet right before the
Oh,
podcast
Yeah,
started.
so apologies if I get anything wrong. Again, we just read this right before we started, but Joe
Newsflash.
Mixon, was he arrested or
No,
served
he has a
warrant
warrant out for his arrest.
for aggravated
Aggravated menacing.
He just stood there menacing.
Yeah, aggravated menacing, because apparently he was yelling at someone and said something along the lines of, you need to get got. I'm going to shoot you. I don't care if the cops get me.
Get the gat, I guess.
Not sure what would entice that from an NFL running back. But apparently, you don't win the AFC Championship and you fall off the deep end. But yeah, the Bengals as a whole, 71 ground yards. Can't have it.
Yeah.
Bengals had 270 through the air. Joe Burrow threw 1 touchdown, but he threw 2 picks. I mean, the Bengals just didn't have a good day.
Yeah,
That's all there is to it.
And I don't think I think we're looking into it too much, really. I mean, every team has bad days. I think this was just another case for them.
Yeah, and you can say all you want about the officiating sucked, which in my opinion it did. Watch the game. I think the officiating was terrible for both sides, really. Like, there was calls on both sides. I was like, man, that's just dumb. or, missed calls here and there. But in the end, you can't blame anyone but the Bengals for the loss.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they just lost the game. You can't give the ball away 2 times, have Burrow getting sacked 5 times. Like, it doesn't – you're not going to win a playoff game like that, especially against a team like the Chiefs when they're at home in Arrowhead.
Narrowhead.
Not really Burrowhead.
Not Burrowhead, as Travis Kelce said. Know your role and shut your mouth, jabroni. That was Kelsey's words to the Cincinnati mayor. But, yeah, all in all, Chiefs come out with the victory in the last second field goal from Harrison Butker. So we are looking at a Kansas City Chiefs, Philadelphia Eagles Super Bowl in Arizona in a couple weeks. We're not going to deep dive into the Super Bowl. We're going to save that for a later episode when we get closer. We don't want to give away all of our information yet. But what are y'all looking forward to in this Super Bowl? What do you think's going to go down? What's your big takeaways?
I'd like to see some big numbers, lots of scoring. But obviously that's real exciting for any football game.
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll actually see that though. That Eagles offensive line did pretty decent against the 49ers defensive line, which is
Very, very decent.
top tier.
Yeah.
And I know I mentioned the Chiefs and their 5 sacks, 2 from Chris Jones earlier. I really don't know if they match up well at all against that Eagles offensive line.
I mean, I wouldn't consider them better than the 49ers D-line.
Not a chance.
Yeah.
No.
Not a chance.
Yeah, I mean, even though, Rebo Hustle doesn't think the Eagles are good in the trenches, they're quite literally, in my opinion, number one on both sides.
On both sides, yeah.
Of the ball, offensive and defensive line. I think they have the best of both, which is kind of the reason they've been winning all year, You can look at the scores and you think they have a super flashy offense that's the spread system that's, throwing the ball over the yard. Jalen Hurts doesn't get that many passing yards because they just dominate on the offensive and defensive line. What are you laughing at? I don't like this.
Comments are kicking off again. First one from Soundman said, he's talking about the Bengals losing to the Chiefs. He said they lost to a QB with one leg. Not good. And followed by Lottober in the comments.
Oh, Lottober, what's going on, buddy?
Heyo.
He said, lay the Jags.
Lay the Jags.
And then sister to Redfish, Bluefish, said, personally, I'm more
Bluefish.
excited for the Puppy Bowl, honestly.
Of course you would
As
be.
you should be. I mean, some real dogs
She doesn't
over there.
understand the culture.
Some real dogs.
Some real dogs.
But yeah, just to back up what Lionel said, I also want to see a high-scoring game, but the way these defenses kind of match up, I think it'll kind of be a little dormant, especially towards the beginning.
Good word.
And then thank you. And then
It's word of the day calendar.
Word of the day. Dormant.
use it, everybody. But yeah, towards the end of the game, I could see it ramping up. Kind of getting to crunch time. I just don't want to see a repeat of that Rams-Patriots Super Bowl.
God.
Yeah, please no.
Not anything but that.
I think that might be Lot's favorite Super Bowl of all time, but that was just I didn't even watch the game because of how mad I was about the Saints thing, to be fair.
Soundman said, I'm betting the under, no high-scoring game, please.
Well, see, here's the thing is, before the Bengals-Chiefs game, I assumed it was going over. I was like, two of the most high-powered offenses. They both have, middle-tier defenses. I was like, oh, yeah, this is going to be, 35-31. It's going to be a shootout. It hits the under. Eagles-49ers game, you're like, man, they both have really good defenses, but they both have, been scoring over 30 points a game. I think the over-under for the Eagles game was at 46.5, and I saw a lot of people taking the over. That one hits the under, too. So does the Super Bowl follow the same vibe is the question.
Yeah, I could see it. The under hitting.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
could
I think
also see the
it's at-
overhitting.
It's at 50.5 right now, the over-under, which is,
That's
in my opinion, is such a
It's
it's such a good line.
Because if you look at it, it's just 25 apiece.
Yeah. So going in, I'm like, oh yeah, Eagles will probably win about 27-23, and then you're like, oh, that's 50. That's right on the number. And I'm like, oh.
See, if this was just a regular season game, I'd be slamming that over.
Yeah, but it's a Super Bowl.
But
People
yeah.
are going to play hard. We'll see. Before we get into our next topic, which is something that I know a lot of Louisiana fans are going to want to talk about, I would like to say that the NBA has released the names for the East and West All-Star reserves. So they released the names for the All-Star starters a couple weeks back. Now we know all the reserves. The only Pelican who made the All-Star game is Zion Williamson, which was kind of expected. But in the East, at the reserves, we're looking at Joel Embiid, Jaylen Brown, Bam Adebayo, Julius Randle, DeMar DeRozan, Drew Holiday, and Tyrese Halliburton.
Good for Drew.
Good for Drew. Good for Tyrese making his first All-Star game. Big Tyrese Halliburton fan. I think he's really, really good, and he's going to be really good for years to come, especially on a Pacers team that's doing better than expected. And then in the West, we're looking at John Morant, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Damian Lillard, Triple J, Jaren Jackson Jr., Lauri Markkanen, Paul George, and Big Dom, Domantas Sabonis.
Good for Laurie.
Good for Lauri, indeed. He'll probably win MIP. Dude's
Oh
a
yeah,
dog.
yeah,
I'm very proud of Domantas Sabonis. Shout out Sabonis. That's a dog right there, too.
yeah. He's hitting all your parlays, huh?
All of them.
Except
Every
for
single
one
one.
I bet on.
Yep, you dang right. But yeah, just wanted to mention that so you don't think we're only a football show. Hello, Off the Dome Sports, not Off the Dome football. That's what we do.
Wait.
So now let's get into hockey.
Yes.
Oh.
The Seattle Kraken.
Terrible.
Nah, I'm just kidding. We're getting back into the NFL with something we have to talk about. We would be remiss if we did not. Sean Payton, longtime Saints coach of the year in 2006, came here with Drew. 2006 to 2020. I mean, 14 years, 15 years of absolute dedication to the city of New Orleans. When Sean Payton was at his best, we felt like we could win the Super Bowl every year.
We should have
We should have won the Super Bowl like 3 years in a row and lost in
at
heartbreaking
least
fashion.
made it to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I was having a good day until you reminded me of that.
But yeah, Sean Payton is now officially the coach of the Denver Broncos.
Yes, he is.
We traded him to give him a round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you.
It looked like it was down to Denver and Arizona, which are the two people we picked.
And then
and-
they had a few more jump in the race.
Yeah, I
Kinda
mean,
unexpected.
Carolina was interviewing him.
I love the mystery team that always comes in.
Yeah, it was always like, oh, there's a team that nobody expected that's
Any-
in there, and then
any
they didn't
big-
release his name.
Any big free agent or trade target, there's always a mystery team.
And it's never the mystery team. It's always the team you expect him to go to that he goes to. Shout out Tom Brady. It's going to the Bucks a couple of years ago. But yeah, he talked to Houston. He talked to Carolina. He had like a 12-hour day with Arizona where everybody's like, oh, shoot, Arizona's going to offer him the job like while he's here. And then Denver goes ahead at a random time when nobody was expecting it. Just poof, out of nowhere, Sean Payton's a Denver Bronco. In return, we end up getting this year's first-round pick and next year's second-round pick while sending Sean Payton and next year's third. The pick we technically got in return was number 30, but due to the Dolphins having to forfeit pick 21 because of Sean Payton,
Let's
see,
go.
full circle.
Let's go.
Sean Payton affected 3 first-round picks this year, by the way.
Let's go, Sean.
But officially the pick is 29 instead of 30. So what's your thoughts on the return for Sean Payton?
I mean, I'm not a huge fan of giving up that third.
Yeah.
It's next year's third, right?
Yeah, next year's third.
So I'm not a huge fan of that, but any return that the Saints were going to get would always be a win for the team.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know there were some rumors about Sean possibly coming back. I never believed those. He seemed pretty done with the franchise.
Yeah.
He said, "I want to win."
He said bye bye. So yeah, I mean, getting pick 29 in return, there are so many things you could do with that pick. Send it for a veteran. I'd rather not, but it's an option.
Yeah,
But yeah, that's a great return for the Saints.
I agree. What's your thoughts down there?
As far as the Saints go, I am gonna miss him. I know a lot of people are. Hell of a coach. But yeah, I didn't really see him coming back as an option, being the way the franchise is currently. Not really on the winning track of things right now.
Yeah,
Missing a few pieces.
for sure.
But as far as Sean Payton goes, good for him. I really like the Denver pick for him. Once again, I don't think that Russ was the problem in Denver. I think it was the coaching. We saw how they played at the end of the season after he got fired,
Yeah, they actually did play a lot better once Hackett was gone.
and I think it'll only get better up there in Denver for Russ, for all the young players out there that they have, and for Coach Payton.
Yeah. I'm not surprised he went to Denver. I had said Arizona, but I'm not surprised he went to Denver. It makes sense for him. It makes sense for the team. I think as far as the return goes, I'm pretty happy with it because, We
Yeah.
got something for him.
Yeah, I love being
It's-
back in the first round of this draft.
I do too.
I've read so many mock drafts now. I sit in class. Sorry, Dr. Chad. I just sit there
Chad.
and just run mock drafts.
Oh, he's
It's
definitely
beautiful.
watching.
Can confirm.
Can we get a
that
Can we
does
get a
happen.
Penn State in the chat?
Can we please get a fake Penn State Letterman jacket in the chat? But yes,
Lot's
sorry,
salty,
Chad.
bro.
Why? What's wrong, Lot?
What's he about?
He said Broncos doing all this just to finish third in the West,
Dang, that's tough.
I mean, possibly.
and then he
That's
asked
actually quite
It's-
Fine
possible.
with me. That's a
Spencer-
better draft pick.
he asked if Spencer Dinwiddie is an All-Star.
No, Spencer Dinwiddie is not an all-star. I'm sorry,
An
your
all-star in
Mavs-
our hearts.
I'm sorry to your Mavs, but Spencer Dinwiddie is not an all-star. But yeah, as far as Sean Payton goes, I'm not surprised he goes to Denver. I like the return we get for it. We're back in the first round of this draft, and then we basically just move up around next year. Yeah, I mean, something's better than nothing. I know people are like, oh, man, why did we give up this third? Which I agree. It sucks that we had to give up the third. There was a report that we were looking for 2 1s, which you're not going to get 2 1s for a coach.
No.
I mean, listen, all in all, he's a coach. He's not the one actually putting the product on the field. So you're not going to get this huge return for him. But I hope Sean Payton succeeds in Denver. I mean, we'll never have to worry about them unless we meet him in the Super Bowl. So it's not really that big of a deal to me. I'm glad he went to an AFC team and didn't go to like Carolina or something where we have to see him twice a year.
That would
That
have
would-
been heartbreaking.
That would have been the worst possible scenario.
No return could have been enough for that.
No, absolutely not. Give us 7 first-round picks, not enough. I'm just kidding.
Give
That
us
was a
the
joke.
entire first round.
Oh,
I want
we do a Ricky
31.
Williams draft
Yeah, I want 31 first-round picks right now.
and David Putney.
Good reference.
I hate both of you.
Draft Day, great movie. Go ahead and watch
It's
it.
not.
I will be
It-
watching it twice this year, as I do every year.
Top-tier
But
stuff.
Sean Payton, he's in Denver now. What's y'all realistic expectations for Denver next year?
I mean, that division is going to be difficult. It always is. I think the Raiders are. I mean, they're the bottom of the division, but
Mhm.
they will be better next year. They will improve. It's
Yeah.
a lot hard. It's really difficult to
Shout
not
out Stidham.
improve.
Raiders are going to have a new quarterback next year, too.
They already
sure
do.
will. Jared Stidham.
Jared Stidham.
I don't.
Who's the guy behind him? He needs. To
Can't
be
tell
one
you.
in.
Can't tell you.
No, but for Denver, I really like what I think Sean is going to be able to do with Russell Wilson. Russ is definitely aging. He's getting to that kind of twilight point. He's past his prime.
Yeah.
And Sean certainly has experience working with older quarterbacks and
Making them better than what they should be, really.
Absolutely. I mean, you guys mentioned a few weeks ago when we were talking, y'all were talking about the Sean Payton rumors, how Russ used to have one of the most beautiful, like deep balls in the league, and he absolutely did. That's not quite there anymore because he's just that the arms getting a little weaker as time goes on. So if Sean Payton can implement that, the West Coast style offense that he made popular or used over there in New Orleans.
Over there.
Over there,
there. Over there, like an hour down the road.
Yeah, down over there, I think they could really find success because, I mean, the roster's loaded with talent.
Oh, yeah.
Young
Absolutely.
talent, too.
The only other question mark I would have would be the running game because I know Javonte Williams. First of all, we don't really know what Javonte Williams is. Like
He did tear his
have-
ACL.
and he didn't have a whole lot of time on the field.
No. I mean, he was in a committee, and then he started this year and then played like 3 games, and then he's done.
He kind of had
So-
a semi-breakout rookie year where he was still sharing snaps at the end of the season, but he was getting meaningful minutes.
Yeah.
And I think he was the number one back there between him and Melvin Gordon.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they really need to address that because we don't know. First of all, we don't know what he looked like, and we don't know what he's going to look like after. Was it just an ACL, or how devastating was it? It was bad.
It was bad. I think it was like ACL, MCL, damage to the LCL type thing.
whole
Like it was like
alphabet.
I think basically
The knee.
He destroyed the alphabet of his knee, if I remember correctly. I don't think it was one of those like clean tears, get the surgery next day, let's get the rehab type things.
And like the run game is such a huge part of Sean Payton's offenses in New Orleans that he's gonna have to get that squared away. In
Yeah.
Denver. You can't go out there and run out Latavius Murray at 92 years old and Melvin Gordon. Is Melvin Gordon still there?
I don't think so. I don't think he is. For some reason, I have a feeling.
That's the
he's
smart
not.
Bring back
He
Philip
shouldn't.
Lindsay.
Oh,
in my-
now we're talking.
See, Sean does love some Latvias though.
Yeah. And
Sean has connections to Mr. Latvius down here in New Orleans.
Sure does.
So Latvius could be getting some meaningful minutes over there in Denver.
I don't know if that's a connection you want to have.
I'm not saying it's a good one. I'm just saying it exists. But, I'm excited for what Denver can do. I think, Russ later in bless you, Mustang. But
Nay.
with what Sean did with Drew Brees later in his career, if he can kind of implement that same system and get Russ on that same level, like we all know the last 3 years of Brees' career, he wasn't Brees anymore, really. But he was still good. He still had that game against the Colts, I think. It was like 29 for 30 for 314 and 3. Like he still went off in the second to last year of his career when he could barely throw the ball 40 yards. So if he can get that same thing going with Russ, and then if Javonte Williams does come back healthy and looks like he has, if he matches the potential we know he has, if he has a good backup running back that can take the snaps off of him, whether it's Latavius Murray, Melvin Gordon, they get some guy in free agency, whatever the case may be. You still have Cortland Sutton. You still have Jerry Jeudy. Tim Patrick will be back from injury. KJ Hamler has shown some sparks here and there. And that defense, even though the team lost a lot, that defense was top 5 in everything. They had a fantastic defense this year. So Denver has a lot of potential, I think. So I'm happy for Sean.
You want to update on that Javonte Williams injury?
Sure.
Let's hear it.
So it was an ACL tear along with an LCL tear.
The LCL's not fun.
Yeah, pretty serious injury is what, is basically what they're saying.
Yeah.
But he's not only is he on the track to recovery, he's actually doing better than expected. He's off crutches, and he's kind of just doing physical therapy and rehab right now.
At what point did doctors start adjusting the expectations? Because it feels like
everybody's always ahead of schedule.
Everyone's always ahead of schedule.
Yeah, they just what I see. What I think they did is they ACL heals in 9 months, but they always say, "Oh yeah, it's like a 10-month thing." So when everybody's a month ahead of schedule, they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm telling you, man, they're healing like a Wolverine." But yeah, I'm excited for what Sean Payton can do in Denver. I'm happy for him getting back into football if that's really what he wants to do. It sucks that he's not here in New Orleans anymore, and we're going to talk about New Orleans in a few minutes. As far as what we want to do with pick 29 in the draft. But before we do that, Mustang and I have talked a couple times about what we think is going to happen with this NFL awards predictions. So if you don't mind, just quickly run through who you think is going to get each award, and then we'll either back you up or tear you down.
All right. You were talking to me, right?
Yeah, you.
Perfect. Cool.
Father Forsyth, it's you.
So for MVP,
Final.
I think I'm going to legally change my name. Anywho, MVP I think is the easiest of all the awards is going to be Mahomes.
Yeah.
Is this going to be his third or second?
Second.
Yeah. There's not much more you can say that hasn't been said already about Mahomes. It's ridiculous.
But
yeah,
if Hurts didn't get injured, do you think he wins that award ahead of Mahomes? The Eagles might have only lost one game.
I could see it. I
got
could see
15
it.
wins.
Hurts had a great year. Minus the injuries. I think he definitely could have put up a better competition than some of the other guys that are up for the award.
Okay,
that's no shade to Josh Allen, Burrow, Justin Jefferson's up for it, right?
Yep.
But Mahomes just with Hurts out of the picture ran away with it.
Yeah.
Offensive Player of the Year, I feel is also pretty easy. It's going to be Justin Jefferson.
Absolutely.
And my fantasy team
Wish
thanks
he
him.
would have broken that record.
That would have been nice.
Yeah.
Real struggled in, what was the last 2 weeks?
Last 2 weeks, yeah.
Last 2
Vikings
weeks,
That was
yeah.
really
and
tough.
Packers.
But Justin
Not
Jefferson.
Vikings. Packers and
Whoever
one of
they
those
played
teams.
I think it was the Giants. No, the Giants was the playoff game.
Who knows?
I don't know.
Who cares?
Lions.
One of those teams.
Was it? No, Packers played the Lions last.
Lions, Tigers, or Bears?
Oh my! Could have been the Bears.
Probably was the Bears.
Bears. Okay. For Defensive Player of the Year, another pretty easy one in my opinion. It's Nick Bosa.
Yeah.
A league-leading 18.5 sacks. That's
Big year.
That's pretty nuts.
Big year.
And he's also looking for a new contract this year.
Ooh.
Probably looking to reset the non-quarterback market. It's going to be some
Probably.
big money.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I mean, you can't let him walk out the door.
No, you can't. Offensive Rookie of the Year, I've got Garrett Wilson.
I also had Garrett Wilson. I think you had what, KW3?
He's the leading Vegas odds. So,
Yes, I did have Ken Walker.
and it makes sense. Like Ken Walker had a great season. I just feel like Garrett Wilson with the like carousel of quarterbacks they had,
Yeah,
the revolving
absolutely.
door over there. He still put up 1,000 yards.
Yeah.
Had a great rookie season.
Chris Olave should have been higher in the running. That's all I'm saying.
Brock Purdy, like fantastic. Love the guy, Mr. Relevant. Love it. Great. Olave should have been there instead of Brock Purdy.
Yeah, I mean,
agree.
Yeah, he just didn't play enough.
No,
Yeah,
he played
not only
in-
that, but like, look at the team around him. Like, yeah,
Are you saying that you could have been the quarterback?
I'm
for the
not
49ers?
saying
saying
I would-
like they could start like I don't know Josh Johnson or
I'm
something.
not
and-
saying I could have went 7-0 in that 49ers offense, but I'm saying I could have won at least 4 games. That you got Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, CMC, Elijah Mitchell, one of the best O lines in the league with Trent Williams on it, and you had a defense who wasn't allowing anybody to score more than 20 points. Brock Purdy had a team around him. Garrett Wilson
Absolutely.
had no quarterback. Chris Olave had New Orleans, which we don't again don't have to talk about.
And dog.
And Doug Dogton.
That's tough. All right, moving on to defensive rookie of the year. I think it's Sauce Gardner.
Sauce.
Saucy.
I really like Tariq Woolen.
I did too.
I still think he's going to come in third in the race with Aiden Hutchinson in second.
Yeah.
Sauce, first team All Pro as a rookie. That's pretty rare. That's That's some top notch stuff for that Jets draft.
Yeah. It would be the best team draft since the 2017 Saints.
And I mean, Brees Hall doesn't get hurt. Like maybe you got 2 Jets in the running for offensive rookie of the year. Crazy.
The Jets draft this past season, like you go back and look at it, like on draft night, everybody's like, oh yeah, the Jets had a great draft. And, sometimes it happens where you're like, oh yeah, they got a bunch of big names. It sounds good, and then it doesn't work out. The Jets
Like Zach Wilson.
still had the best draft. I mean, you get Brees Hall, Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson. Jermaine Johnson's a guy who gets no love, but he had a really good rookie year as well. I mean, the Jets draft was insane,
If
man.
they can figure out a quarterback, they're going to be.
They're going to be
I'm not
tough.
going to say they'll be good.
No, but they almost made the playoffs this
they'll
year.
be much better than Jets
Playoffs.
fashion.
Playoffs. Yeah, no, the Jets are a team to watch out for sure.
Like it might look like the Mark Sanchez Jets.
Yeah. Led by the defense. And
Hopefully no butt fumbles.
that whole. All right, so coach of the year, I think it'll be Nick Sirianni. I would really
Fair.
like for it to be Brian Dable.
Wow. He didn't mention
Our guy.
our guy.
Nope.
Who's the guy?
Doug,
Doug
Peterson.
Peterson.
I mean that's a fair
Shout out to
a fair
Mr.
one, too.
Latober.
First pick of the draft.
The
Second
playoffs.
round of the playoffs.
Yeah.
That's certainly impressive. Doug Peterson did a great job turning around that franchise from the Urban
Urban
Meyer.
Meyer.
Oh dear Lord.
Ouch.
Get out of my head, Byron. But yeah, Brian Dable, I think, did a really great job in his first year with the Giants.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially if you look at that quarterback situation. Like going into this season, Daniel Jones was like a punchline
Yeah.
by a lot of people, myself included. I made fun of Danny Dimes all the time.
Still do.
Still,
Of course, but don't tell Dable that.
Don't tell Doug.
But now Danny Dimes, I think they're looking to extend him. Like they didn't take his 5th-year option, right?
Nope.
Right. So now they're looking to extend him because of what he's shown this year. He dropped. No, he didn't. Rather, he changed his turnover percentage.
Yeah.
He dropped it. Whereas when you look at Josh Allen this year
went
without Brian
higher.
Daboll, his went up.
Yep.
So if you look at something like that, that's a franchise-changing move. And I
Absolutely.
believe that all comes down to Brian Dable. But Nick Sirianni was the coach of the best team in the league. I think it'd be hard to not give it to him.
Yeah, especially when he's a young coach who, he like Andy Reid ended up with the same record, but Andy Reid's been here before. Andy Reid's a good coach. Sean McDermott, he's a good coach. He's won it before. With Nick Sirianni being a second-year coach, leading a team that nobody really expected to get the 1 seed except for me, makes sense.
And then for the final awards, for Comeback Player of the Year, I went with Saquon, showing the Giants a little extra love here. I considered Saquon or McCaffrey. Ultimately, I went down with Saquon just because I feel like McCaffrey had the better outlook at the beginning of the season. Like, I remember there's a fantasy league Bryce and I are both in where one of the other managers has Saquon and Christian McCaffrey. And the offseason last year, I was really close to getting Saquon on the cheap. Like, I'm talking like a second and some random receiver that would have really helped in that league. But
Yeah.
So that would have been nice. Yeah, Saquon put over 1,300 yards on the ground and then added 10 touchdowns to it, and then 300 yards through the air.
That's
So
a great year.
It's a great year. That's
pretty
almost
solid.
as good as Geno Smith.
See, you know what the funny thing is I think we had the same exact awards except for Coach of the Year. Like everything else was the same. So
was yours Doug Peterson?
Doug Peterson was my coach. Sirianni was kind of like that guy where I'm like, I'm pretty sure he's going to win it, but just to be different, I picked Doug Peterson. But yeah, I mean, awards wise, I mean that just makes sense. Really liked your picks there, and then moving out of awards into something more close to our hearts, I guess you could say. We're gonna go through. Each go through 3 scenarios we could see the Saints doing with the 29th pick in this upcoming 2023 NFL Draft. Byron, do you want to start us off?
No.
Okay, I'll start us off then. So I'll go. So what I wanted to do is I went with one thing I wish we would do by trading the pick. One thing I wish we would do by taking who I want to take. And then the one I see being very realistic. I went with 3 different scenarios, all involving this 29th pick. So the one I think I would like the most, and a lot of fans would probably get up for too, is trade our pick along with some other assets to move up and grab a quarterback in the draft. Not get a veteran, get a young quarterback to help develop this young team that we have. And my guy is CJ Stroud. I think he's the best quarterback in the draft. Right now, he's kind of on the borderline, like QB2, QB3 line. Bryce Young's pretty much the number 1, and I know a lot of people are talking up Will Levis. So C.J. Stroud's kind of getting overlooked, in my opinion, which he shouldn't be. We saw him absolutely dog the Georgia Bulldogs defense in a game where nobody expected Ohio State to be where they were, and that's on the biggest stage he's ever been on. So I think C.J. Stroud has shown us a lot. So what would the Saints have to give up? In my opinion, we go pick 29, pick 40, and the second rounder that Denver set us for next year. So that's 2 seconds and a late first to try to move up into the top 10. I have us landing at 6 to Detroit.
Just give him Mike Thomas.
I mean, I would, sure.
It would break my heart, but yeah.
But yeah. So
Keep the picks.
the
Mike Thomas.
I don't know if anybody wants him.
It's tough.
But so the reason I have us moving up to 6 specifically is because I think there is 2 teams in the top 5 that could take a quarterback, being Houston and Indianapolis. Now, Indy is a team we've seen go veteran a lot. So do they stick with that veteran and then they don't take a quarterback in the draft? Indy's also a team that's been linked to trading for number 1 after the Bears said they are keeping Justin Fields. So, you've got 2 teams ahead of us. If we move up to 6, you'd have 2 teams ahead of us who I'm worried about taking a quarterback from us. That'd be Colts and Houston. However, DeMeco Ryans, new coach of the Houston Texans, defensive guy. They asked him today how he feels about the quarterback situation, and he said, we're going to play with whoever we got. That doesn't sound like a guy who's like, we need to go grab a quarterback in this draft. Not saying Houston won't draft a quarterback, but, we've seen defensive coaches come in, and they get defensive guys even if you have problems on the other side of the ball. So, they could go a guy like Will Anderson or Jalen Carter at 2. I think Bryce Young's the number 1 quarterback on most boards, so he'll probably go as the first quarterback taken, which leaves us at 6 with our pick of Will Levis or C.J. Stroud. I like C.J. Stroud. I think he'd look beautiful in black and gold, teaming up with Chris Olave again.
Yeah, you've already got the chemistry.
And if Michael Thomas is still here, you've got 2 Ohio State receivers and Olave and Michael Thomas with an Ohio State quarterback. That sounds like a Saints wet dream.
Oh, of course.
Like
Keep,
that.
keep dipping in
yeah.
the Ohio State pool.
Yeah,
Might
that's
as
what
well
I'm saying.
get the quarterback.
From a front office standpoint, yeah.
So that's what I really want us to do as far as trading the pick. If we keep pick 29, the guy I would like us to go out and get is Dalton Kincaid, tight end out of Utah.
Ooh,
I think
went
so,
the same route as me, but different player.
It happens.
Interesting.
But I think, tight end is a position that's kind of iffy for the Saints. Juwan Johnson had a fantastic year, but he's a free agent. We don't know if he's going to get him. We don't know if we're going to get him back. There's a lot of guys we don't know if we're going to get back. I think the one thing the Saints offense is missing is that liable red zone threat. Juwan Johnson kind of became that, but if you can get Dalton Kincaid, he's 6'4", 242. He had 70 receptions for 890 yards and 8 touchdowns this past season for a top 10 Utah team. And then when you look at his traits, he has a really diverse route tree, and he had a 96% catch rate. So he doesn't drop balls. He can run routes like a receiver. He's big, he's fast, and he has the production from a team we know passes the ball a lot. So I like that from Dalton Kincaid. His one big downfall is he's not a great inline blocker. But my thing is we have tight ends who can block right now. Our thing is reception. If you want to block, throw in Adam Troutman. He'll block for you. If we want a guy to go get the ball, give me Dalton Kincaid. And then finally, my third scenario, a realistic scenario of who we pick at 29. Saints-wise, it makes sense to take a defensive end because we always draft linemen, offensive or defensive. And then not only that, but we're probably going to lose Davenport this offseason. So we're going to have to replace him. And the guy I have us doing that with is Isaiah Foskey. He is a defensive end out of Notre Dame. Y'all know how I feel about Notre Dame. So it makes sense that the Saints would draft a Notre Dame player. But he had really high production this past season, and he had really high production the season before. So this past season, out of Notre Dame, 11 sacks, 10 tackles for loss, and 23 total. That sounds like a really good defensive end to me, especially when you take on a lot of Big Ten offensive linemen. He still produced like that. He is the prototypical defensive end build, 6'5", 265. I mean, you can't ask for much more. And then one thing I've heard a lot about him that I really enjoy is he has a really high character and high leadership, which is something I think the Saints could really use. Not that we don't have leaders. I mean, we have DeMario, we have Cam Jordan, but we always seem like to have like these little spats come out or like little problems come out leaking here and there. So if you get a rookie in there who's just hardworking, has that leadership ability, and comes in and produces at an NFL level out of college, Isaiah Foskey's the way to go for me.
Well said.
Thank you.
Soundman is not happy with you.
Why is he not happy with me?
He said, if we draft a tight end in the first round, I won't watch a Saints game next year.
It's fine.
That's fair. That's fair.
That's fair. But if you ask me, our defense was really good last year. We need to look at offense. Chris Olave has proven to me he can be a wide receiver one in this league. If we don't draft a quarterback in the first round, that probably means to me that we're going to get some veteran, Jimmy G, Derek Carr. Unfortunately, we may
could get one in the
Andy
second
Dalton.
round, though.
Hendon Hooker.
Yes,
Please.
I like it.
That's what I was
Hey,
thinking.
I'm not opposed to
I
it.
am not opposed to Hendon Hooker at all. I love Hendon Hooker. But
Just think of Hooker on the back of a black and gold jersey.
But see,
Wayo,
here's my thing.
buying it day one.
Here's my thing at tight end. Like, if you get one of those mid-tier guys, he'll do. But you see what happens when you get one of the best tight ends.
Oh,
in the
yeah.
league. When you have Travis Kelce, or when you have, for me, Dalton Kincaid looks a lot like Zach Ertz. And Eagles Zach Ertz was a difference maker. You knew the Eagles were in any game because they had Zach Ertz. So it's worth it to me to take a first-round guy, especially if he can put up that kind of production. But go ahead with your picks, Mr. Lionel.
Yeah, so that's fair assessments. So I also took the trade up for C.J. Stroud route. Took a little bit of a different angle at it, though. I think we could see a slight fall for Stroud. I mean, there's conversations about him going in the top 5. I think maybe we see him drop to 10. At that spot, you've got the Eagles picking, which was the Saints pick.
Yep.
Ironically enough, maybe we just try and move up and get that back. As the offseason keeps going, progresses, you're going to have this quarterback carousel that starts to pan out. You've got guys like Derek Carr, Aaron Rodgers, Jimmy G. They're all going to find landing spots. I think the Packers are pretty adamant that Aaron Rodgers is gone.
Yeah.
And he seems done with them too.
For sure this time.
Oh,
Yeah. Rodgers is being linked to, I think, the Jets and the Raiders right now.
I
Which
certainly see him on the
if
Raiders.
if he goes to the
easily.
Raiders, that takes them out at 7.
Exactly.
So that gives you another spot a quarterback's not going to go.
Also, I think I feel like we see this every year where as the draft process keeps going with these prospects and pro days, the combine all start coming along, there's going to be a lot of nitpicking.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
in that's where they like, oh, well, this guy, no one attended his birthday party.
This guy was
And-
Shout out Bo
flat-footed.
Callahan.
Crazy. The guy was flat-footed. So if that's the scenario that starts to play out, part of that also, I think Will Levis is going to make a throw at the combine or his pro day that is going to go
Shoot 'em
viral.
up
It's
draft
just
boards.
going to go crazy on the internet. All the scouts are going to freak out.
Yeah.
Very much a Zach Wilson experience there.
Yeah, like the
And
rollout right and throw it 65 yards down the field. and
I
then
will
Will
go
Levis
on
goes
record
Or
on
can we
the
get
off.
a Jamarcus Russell 70 yards from the knee?
Never.
too. No, we
Um,
cannot.
I will go on record on the Off the Dome podcast here and say that
Let me write it down.
Okay, go for it. I was a Zach Wilson truther
Yeah, you were.
Yeah, I was. I apologize for that to anyone who ever listened to me talk about him.
And for that, I will never like Will Levis.
Exactly. I've convinced myself that I cannot fall in love with Will Levis as a prospect.
Because
Because
Zach Wilson.
exactly. Zach Wilson
funny.
has ruined quarterbacks for me forever.
That's funny.
Y'all, if I'm not mistaken, both of you have
Don't
always
no,
had
don't do
we're
it.
bad
Don't
at
do it. Don't do
quarterbacks.
it.
bad
Don't do it.
quarterback takes.
Maybe the Saints
Lionel.
don't draft CJ
Yeah.
Stroud.
Lionel, keep talking. Keep talking. Don't let
All
him
right, all right, all right, cool. So 2017, the Chiefs had the 27th pick. They move all the way up to 10 for Mahomes. History, was made. Moving up those 17 spots, it cost them the 27th pick, a third rounder, and a 2018 first. So I think the Saints are going to look at a similar price tag to move up the 19 spots they would have to do to get to pick 10. So in this scenario, they give up 29, a third rounder this year, so it'd be 71, a fifth rounder this year, 143, and then a first rounder in 2024.
That's a lot.
There's a lot.
I mean, it's the additional fifth, and I don't think the Saints need to add as much depth. Like, I think that fifth is fine. Sending that over, if you can get your guy
Yeah,
next decade plus.
I love CJ Stroud. So
That's the only thing, though. I mean, like with these drafts, you never really know how these players are going
of
to turn
course.
out. It's
Yeah.
a shot in the dark.
Yeah,
song.
it all comes down to, do you want to take your shot this year or next year? Do you want to? And I don't think the Saints are in a position to tank for Caleb Williams.
No.
You have to get the first overall pick if you want Caleb
Yeah.
Williams.
Plus, he
Yeah.
lost to Tulane.
Well, yeah. The Caleb Williams thing, I really like him for next year's draft. But the way the Saints have already kind of discussed this offseason and moving into next season, it doesn't look like they're trying to rebuild at all.
No.
Like they're reloading almost, and
Mhm.
that might be a little not wise of them.
I think what it is the NFC South is so wide open with Tom Brady retiring. All the teams had losing records last year. Like, I think the way they're thinking about it is like, hey, if we can get into the playoffs, we'll see what happens. Which in a wide open NFC South, they have a shot at making the playoffs next year.
Yeah, so just to wrap up the Stroud talk before we ramble on any more about him, he's a super talented quarterback that I think would do wonders in the Saints system. One of the biggest negatives against Stroud is his completion rate when he's under pressure.
Mhm.
When there is anyone in his face, it's rough. He only had 41% completions when under pressure last year.
Great. He'll fit right in with our O-line.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, the Saints O-line is really good. So you give him that Saints offensive line where he can make quick decisions and get the slants to Olave, connect back to that connection. I think you've got a recipe for success.
Let me
sure.
correct you. Saints O-line can be
Oh, absolutely. They've got to be healthy.
healthy.
Honestly,
They can be good when they're healthy.
if that glass
not,
bones
we get Andres
left
Pete.
guard, yeah, that guy. So moving on from the Andres Pete talk, we'll go to
We'll go to Brandon Browner.
no, the pain. All right, so I've got a defensive tackle out of Pittsburgh, Kalijah Cansey. He is.
Can he see?
Can he see?
Can't see.
Said Kalijah can't see.
Oh, sorry. That took me way too long. I'm not proud of that. So the interior defensive line is one of the biggest needs for the Saints this offseason. You've got David Onyemata, who's a free agent. And even behind him, if they were to re-sign him, they certainly could use a little boost up front.
Without a doubt.
Kalijah Cansey is a little undersized. He's only like 6'1", I think I saw somewhere.
Ooh.
And he's 280.
Ooh.
But if you look at defensive linemen at around that size, some of the undersized guys in the league, you've seen them have success when they have the same type of play style as Kalijah Cansey.
Question.
Yes.
Have you ever heard of a 6-foot defensive tackle from Pittsburgh?
I didn't want to bring it up because that is lofty. Those are lofty expectations for
Listen,
Mr.
I'm not saying I have those expectations. Just immediately when you said 6-foot defensive tackle Pittsburgh.
Exactly the comp I like, but I don't want to say it out loud.
Aaron Donald. I'm in. I'm in. I'm
it's-
in on this guy.
It's extreme, and they have a very similar play style.
The
Yeah, I really like the one tab you have that just says vicious.
He is. Like, yeah, my notes are top tier stuff here. Kalijah Cansey is dangerous. He plays with this burst that is insane. If you can just push your way through the interior of the offensive line, I think you're going to cause problems for anyone in the league.
Yeah, just take your problems and push them somewhere else.
Exactly.
Accurate.
The another issue though with Kalijah Cansey is I've seen mock drafts with him at like 10, and I've seen mock drafts with him not in the first round.
Oh.
So
Yeah, mock drafts this year, I've seen him been kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
so it's going to be interesting as the process. Like we're still super early
Yeah.
in the offseason, the draft process. So as that continues,
This is
it'll be a little
this
clearer.
is just way too early predictions.
Oh, for sure.
That's what we do.
So I've rambled on enough, but I've got one more. I'm looking at BJ Ojulari out of LSU.
Yes.
Let's go.
Um,
Saints will never draft an LSU player. They'll just wait 8 years till they're old
that's a good point. That's
and
a
then
good
sign them
point.
to a 1-year deal.
Yeah, I mean, last year they saw the Tyrann Mathieu, Jarvis Landry signings. Maybe they dip back into that LSU pool and get a young guy. The defensive line is a major issue, not just the interior, but the edge rushers as well.
Cam Jordan's old.
Yes, he is. Davenport is gone, in my
Yep.
opinion. I don't think they re-sign him. I
We
don't
don't
think they
have enough money.
should. Yeah, even if they did, I don't think they should.
No.
Um,
He had half a sack last year.
Fun fact.
Yeah.
Davenport, also a synonym for sofa.
Please continue. Please continue.
I hope a lot of Marines are watching.
So Peyton Turner also on the defensive line hasn't given you much hope. When
No,
he,
not really.
you know, he's been off the field a lot with injuries, and when he is on the field, there's not much to desire there. If you look at BJ Ojulari, though, he is another undersized defensive lineman, but super athletic.
Yeah.
Adding that kind of skill set to the Saints defensive line, I think, is crucial, especially with Cam Jordan getting older.
Yeah.
Another key part of Ojulari is that he earned the 18 at LSU,
Mhm.
which is all about leadership.
Yep.
Which, with DeMario and Cam both getting older, you're going to need to get that next guy to step in. Go ahead and get him now, and he can develop into maybe that potential leader
Love
as,
that.
as it moves along.
Love that. I mean, obviously, I love BJ Ojulari. I may or may not go to LSU. So,
Go Tigers.
you may or may not sit next to me in all of my classes.
What?
So, yeah, but I love BJ Ojulari. I think he's a great player. And, you know, beyond everything you said, he also has NFL pedigree. His brother's in the league. His brother was drafted in the first round 2 years ago, Azeez Ojulari. Second round, excuse me. Azeez Ojulari for the New York Giants. So he knows what it takes to get to the NFL. He's been a starter on the LSU team since his true freshman year. So, yeah, I mean, I love all your takes for this draft for the Saints. I know we're going to be talking about it for the next 2.5 months. So y'all better get used to it. Mustang, you got any thoughts on this draft?
I do. Again, way too early predictions. But I kind of got to back y'all up on the trade up for C.J. Stroud. I love it. Do I think it'll happen? No.
No, it won't happen. There's no way.
chance.
Even if they trade up, they'll probably take, another offensive lineman or defensive
Yeah,
lineman.
they'll take John Michael Schmitz out of Minnesota.
They'll take Paris Johnson Jr. out of Ohio State.
He's a dog. I kind of like Paris Johnson Jr., but not after we already have
Not a
3
chance.
tackles on the team.
But yeah, and if we don't trade, I think, Salman's not going to like this either, but record-breaking tight end out of Notre Dame, Michael Mayer,
Love it.
would be my pick.
See,
A
I like Michael
generational
Mayer.
talent.
I like Michael Mayer a lot at tight end. The reason I didn't have him going at 29 is I think he goes before.
So all day today, almost all day today, I've kind of been looking at different mock drafts, and a lot of them have him either 25 or below. I mean above or in the second round.
Really?
And
See, I'm thinking he's like 18 to 22 territory, like right around where the Packers and the Chargers are.
and then on the ones that had the updated, Sean Payton trade,
Yeah.
where Saints get picked 29, a lot of them had the Saints taking them.
I wouldn't mind it at
Which, I
all.
mean,
That would be
A lot of the
elite.
analytics we see, we agree with, but the Saints organization never does because they just want 6'5", 350-pound men in the trenches every year.
Yeah, pretty much.
But yeah, I'd love Michael Mayer,
Yeah, very good player.
6'4.5", so half an inch taller than your guy.
Take that.
I had his stats pulled up. Hold on. Give me a few more seconds. Where'd they go? Well, anyway, they just disappeared on me.
That's tough.
That's
We know
crazy.
he's good.
Yeah.
You
Top
don't
tier
have to
stuff.
tell us. We know he's good. And if
Um,
you out there do not know he's good, look up Michael Mayer, tight end Notre Dame. He's a guy. Some would say
Dog.
a dog. What?
And then, so yeah, and I know a lot of people want us to go quarterback first round, but if we don't trade up and get one of those, top ones, I think we could still get one later. In the second round, we have pick 40. Really like Hendon Hooker there.
Yes.
Um,
Agreed.
if not him, maybe like a D lineman, like an edge guy. Like I've been looking at this guy from Florida, Gervin Dexter.
That's a cool name.
I'm not familiar with his game.
Andre Carter II's another guy I was looking at.
And then
Just put that name.
if you go down the
there.
rabbit hole even further, if you remember, LSU played UCLA.
Ooh, I know where you're going with this.
I know exactly.
The running
looking
back-
at his screen.
That
Oh.
lit us up,
Zach Charbonnet.
Zach Charbonnet.
Dog.
I know we have
At 29?
at 71.
71. Okay, cool.
Oh, my man's
Third
going through
round.
our entire draft. I
No,
like this.
I'm done here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Zach Charbonnet. I don't know if many of you remember that game. Some of us couldn't even watch it because of hurricane damage. However, me and Soundman definitely figured it out, turned it on, and we watched this man torch us all game.
I got real tired of hearing his last name. Charbonnet.
Same thing with Devon A.
Devon A. Chain is another one.
Shout out to Reese.
But yeah, I know like a lot of people are like, oh, we don't really need a running back. We have Kamara, but as we've seen last year, Kamara is injury prone, and when he's not healthy, he is not good.
True. I can
Plus-
attest to that.
Plus, he's getting older and probably has a looming suspension.
Yeah, and I mean, we saw what happens when you don't have a good backup running back. Mark Ingram runs out of bounds and a yard too early, and we miss the playoffs.
But as not only local fans, but even fans across the country know of Kamara's balance training. It's basically gone viral since
Yeah.
he started doing it. And
Yeah.
if we can get a younger running back on kind of the same path, I think this guy, Zach Charbonnet, with his speed, with his elusiveness, can be Kamara 2.0.
yeah, he's really good. I really like Zach Charbonnet. That's a good guy to get in the third round for sure.
If I could add one more name
Absolutely.
for pick 29, I saw it on Byron's mock draft over here because it's absolutely something that the Saints probably will do, and that's take Osiris Torrance.
Osiris
out of
Torrance,
Florida.
guard out of Florida. Yeah, I
That-
considered putting him on here from the realistic perspective.
That is the most Saints pick I've ever seen.
It's the
A
most Cesar-
giant offensive guard.
The
That
most
is
Cesar
ridiculous.
Ruiz pick of all time.
Kind of look like Andrews Pete.
Don't say that name.
Stop that.
We've already said it enough on here. That's the guard who shall not be named.
I love the draft, man. The draft is the most exciting time of the year.
Favorite thing ever.
But as we come to a close here on this
He doesn't look happy.
this great Thursday,
He shouldn't be.
this great
He's a
Thursday
guard.
edition of dang, that's messed up. Off the Dome Sports Podcast. Last time we had Mr. Lottober on, we did a little trivia. With Mr. Rebo Hustle, we did some trivia. So, of course, Mr. Football guy over here,
Oh, boy.
Yeah, he should kill this.
Lionel the football
Don't
man.
put that pressure on me.
We have a
Ooh.
football trivia book here. 7 chapters. I'm going to ask you a chapter, and you tell me which one you want. The draft, teams, players, coaches, Super Bowl, bloopers, or Hall of Fame.
Very draft centric this time
All right,
around.
we'll
So
stick
let's
it
go
with
with
the
the draft.
Okay, cool.
Before we start
Before we start,
talking about
talking about
Michael Mayer,
Michael Mayer.
Of course.
Soundman asked if that was John Mayer's little brother.
Well, duh.
Obviously.
Obviously, like what kind of
Can't you see
Or
the
maybe,
resemblance?
Maybe he is just John Mayer. I mean, I've never seen them in the same room.
fact?
Ooh, good point.
All right. That is a fair assessment. All right.
Can't
so
wait to get these all wrong. Let's go.
So we're going to stick in the general section of this draft here. I don't want to put you into a certain division or anything like that. So we're going to stick with the general draft questions. Byron, can you pick 3 numbers, 1 through 20?
Give me 4,
Okay.
14,
Okay.
and 13.
4, 14, and 13. Okay. So, question 4. Who was the last running back taken first overall in an NFL draft? Your choices. Eddie George, Lawrence Phillips, Marshall Faulk, or Keanu Carter?
Wow. I think
Who
I
was
know
the
this.
last or latest running back taken first overall in an NFL draft? Eddie George, Lawrence Phillips, Keanu Carter, Marshall Falk.
I am completely stumped.
Give me.
On question 1, I want to say Marshall Falk, but I could
Okay.
be totally wrong on that.
Are you locking in Marshall Falk?
Sure.
Give me Keanu Carter.
The correct answer? Keanu Carter. Drafted first overall in 1995
Oh,
by
95.
the Cincinnati Bengals. Question 13. Who was the last wide receiver taken first overall in
good
an
at
NFL
this.
draft? Calvin Johnson, Marvin Harrison, Larry Fitzgerald, Keyshawn Johnson. Calvin Johnson, Marvin Harrison, Larry Fitzgerald, Keyshawn Johnson. If you know the answer, put it in the chat.
I want to say Keyshawn. Because Calvin wasn't
Are you
first.
Are you locking in Keyshawn Johnson?
I'm going to lock in Keyshawn Johnson.
As you should. He was
Yeah.
the only one of these who
Yeah.
actually went first
I
overall.
didn't- yeah.
Keyshawn Johnson went first overall to the Jets in 96.
What pick was? Does it have what pick Calvin was?
It doesn't, but
Okay.
I don't think he was first.
No.
That's for sure. And
Well,
then,
yeah.
Oh, Soundman was wrong. He guessed Megatron.
That's tough.
sorry, Soundman. All right, and number 14 here, giving some love to the special teams. Who is the last place kicker drafted in the first round of an NFL
this.
draft?
You don't even have to say it.
The last place kicker drafted in the first round of an NFL draft.
There's no multiple choice with this one.
No, there's not.
this-
I will give you a hint though because that's messed up. He went in the year 2000 at pick 17.
Oh, I thought. Oh, wait, no, I was
Was
thinking
it-
of a different guy.
You definitely know the name. I'll tell you that it's not some random guy. Like you know this kicker.
Is he good?
He was very good.
Yeah.
Cool nickname.
I'm pretty sure it's Sebastian Janikowski.
The correct answer is Sebastian Janikowski, number 17 overall to the then Oakland Raiders
I was thinking of
in the 2000 NFL draft.
the Tampa guy.
Oh, Robert Aguayo.
Robert
not
Aguayo.
that
in the
guy.
second round. Yeah. But that's going to do it for this episode of the Off the Dome Sports Podcast. Mr. Lionel, thank you so much.
Let me.
You were fantastic.
Glad to be
get
here,
to
guys.
The control room.
Yep. Sound boy, go to the control room. Wait,
Go
before you go,
away.
you know what you must do? Give him the salute. There it is. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on. You were absolutely fantastic.
I
Big
appreciate
football
you guys.
brain on this guy.
Oh,
For the okay,
a mock
ooh.
draft. We all take a team.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna have some fun in the history of this episode. I promise. We're gonna see if we can get the full organ donors cast around this table.
Oh, unprecedented.
Exciting things happening in the Radio House.
Unprecedented.
Unprecedented move. Thank you to Radio House Studios right here live in Studio A for hosting the Off the Dome Sports Podcast. Thank you to New Rock Radio for giving us a channel to tell our sports thoughts, whether people think they're smart or not. Really isn't relevant to me because I'm going to say what I want, even if it's dumb, which sometimes it is. But anyway, thank you so much for watching this Off the Dome Sports Podcast, whether you're newrockradio.us, watching live on all the Radio House Studios accounts. We really appreciate you. I'm Redfish, Mustangs out of here, and Mr. Lionel, Father Forsyth. And we will see you next time.